Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. We will continue our Committee of the Whole budget hearings. Ms. Lawhead, will you please call the next panel for testimony?
Sheriff Rochelle Bilal.
Good afternoon, Sheriff.
Good afternoon, Council President, City Council members.
Just state your name for the record, and then please begin your testimony. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Good afternoon. I'm Sheriff Rochelle Bilal for the City and County of Philadelphia. May I begin?
Yes, you can begin, please.
Good afternoon, Council President Johnson and members of City Council. It is both an honor and a privilege to appear before you today. I am Rochelle Bilal, Sheriff for the City and County of Philadelphia. Joining me today are Tariq El Shabazz, Undersheriff, Jamison Rogers, Chief of Staff, Patrick Lee, Chief Financial Officer, Craig Martin, Chief Budget Officer, Chief Deputy of Court Operations, Sean Thornton, Inspector Hines, Family Court and Transportation, Inspector Sean Marshall, he's not here today. He had an emergency situation because he was over Internal Affairs and Training Bureau. Inspector David Fallon over Civil Enforcement. Inspector Joshua Perez over City Hall and the Widener Building. Inspector Nicole Nobles over the warrant and bike units. IT Manager Eric Chambers. On the behalf of my entire team, I want to thank you for your continued partnership and support in our shared mission to keep Philadelphia safe, secure, and thriving. It's a true privilege to stand alongside such dedicated public servants as we work together to strengthen our communities. Plans for fiscal 2026, year 2026. As we move forward into fiscal year 2026, our office's main objectives are aligned with the Blueprint for a Safer Philadelphia, which is an initiative that remains at the heart of our efforts. Our mission is to execute all orders from the First Judicial Courts and to continue to work on deploying personnel to return excess proceeds from property sales to the citizens, helping them access economic opportunities like homeownership. Our office stands ready to enhance public safety, particularly in line with Mayor Parker's vision for a safer, greener, and cleaner city. The Philadelphia Sheriff's Office has made significant contributions to this vision, particularly through our work with Civil Enforcement and Warrant Unit, who have been instrumental in apprehending fugitives working in partnership with the District Attorney's Office and the Philadelphia Police Department. This collaboration is essential in keeping our streets safe and ensuring the court system operates smoothly. Additionally, the Sheriff's Office has played a critical role in our election security efforts, stepping up to meet the demand for more trained law enforcement officers during the election of 2024. This service was invaluable in helping ensure a smooth, safe process for our citizens. However, as we continue to evolve and grow, we face challenges. Our deputies' salaries are not competitive with other counties within Pennsylvania. And if you just make a little note here, correctional guards get more than our deputy sheriffs. And this disparity has made it increasingly difficult for us to retain high-quality deputies, especially given the increased demand for our services. The need for local sheriff's academy. This is very, very important. One of the greatest challenges we face as an office in the time commuting, with a time, commuting, and costly requirements for our deputies to travel and attend Pennsylvania's Sheriff Academy at State College for 19 weeks. This is a 19-week program. While essential, presents significant barriers for many in our communities, particularly individuals with families or other local commitments. This process results in a delay in the training of deputies. Therefore, I propose we explore the establishment of a local sheriff's academy here in Philadelphia. A local academy will allow us to shorten the training period, enhance accessibility of the program for the diverse communities, and most importantly, speed up the hiring process. This initiative would enable us to hire and train deputies on a more consistent, rolling basis, rather than being restricted to only 1 or 2 training cycles per year. This would greatly benefit both our office and the city, ensuring that we can meet the growing demands of law enforcement while providing stable, well-trained professionals to serve our citizens here in this city. Technology. Technology integration and community engagement. To address these challenges, expanding the role of technology in our operation is essential. One of the most promising developments in our partnership with Tyler Technology, which will enhance transparency by allowing us to track receipts, voided transactions, and disbursements accounts with greater accuracy. Additionally, the implementation of the LiveScan Plus system, an advanced mobile fingerprinting and biometric recognition tool, will significantly improve real-time identification of individuals with outstanding warrants. This technology enables deputies to perform field-based warrant checks and identifications, reducing delays and increasing public safety by closing critical gaps in the execution of judicial orders. In the coming year, allergies, we are also looking to expand our bike and K-9 units, which will provide a more visible presence around the courts and City Hall, as these units currently have been serving our citizens throughout the city. This increased presence is part of our larger vision to help improve safety and strengthen community trust through visible, proactive law enforcement. I am also proud to announce several key initiatives we've undertaken in our community engagement efforts. We are working closely with Council members Dr. Ahmad and Council member Lazada to host upcoming events aimed to increase hiring opportunities for both the AAPI and Latino communities, demonstrating our commitment to engaging with Philadelphia's diverse population and providing opportunities for all. We also committed to enhancing the health and well-being of our communities. In 2024, we were honored to host a free healthcare pop-up clinic that provided much-needed medical services to underserved communities throughout Philadelphia. Our motto with that, you can come in and say your name was SpongeBob, and all we were going to say is, how can we help you? These efforts represent our broader commitment to not only protecting citizens in the courts, but supporting their well-being in all aspects of life. Additionally, in a groundbreaking move for public safety, I am proud to announce that the Philadelphia Sheriff's Office is now the first law enforcement agency in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to be certified in autism awareness. This important certification required our sworn and professional staff to undergo specialized training and pass an assessment, ensuring that we better equipped to serve individuals with autism and their families. In closing, with your support, I know we can achieve these goals together. We are committed to working in partnership with City Council and all stakeholders to move Philadelphia forward and ensure a brighter, safer future for all our citizens. We look forward to continuing these efforts and to further engaging with our communities through the various initiatives we outlined today. Finally, I must address an important issue. Earlier this year, we learned that last year's budget proposal was not properly placed. As a result, it was not given full consideration. This is something that must be addressed so we can ensure our current fiscal year proposal is properly considered. I trust that this process will be handled professionally and honorably, ensuring that the needs of the Sheriff's Office are met and that we can continue to provide the critical services to our citizens in this city and their demands. Thank you for your time and attention. We look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Thank you, Sheriff Bilal, and I think it's great that your agency received the Autism Awareness Award. I know you did another initiative recently with the District Attorney Larry Krasner, an announcement with the Chair of Public Safety, Curtis Jones Jr., to go after those individuals who I think steal homes, correct?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, clearly. So I have a couple questions I want to ask before I turn it over and let the Chair of Public Safety lead this conversation. First, just clarify this budget conversation, because I think we all were a little perplexed. So what happened on the last budget?
The last budget, we didn't know that the administration would just put what they thought we needed instead of giving y'all the total request of what we were asking for. And so last time we had a copy because y'all didn't have the actual copy of what we submitted. And so we had a copy of it and we gave it to everybody. So
Okay.
if that happened again, we got a copy of our budget request so that we can give
So
to
the
everybody.
full budget for
Yes.
everyone member of council, which should be in alignment with the budget that the administration has. So everybody is seeing the same information. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, cool. Just a couple questions. You talk about establishing a local academy. What's the status? What's the time frame to bring that local academy here to the city of Philadelphia?
Well, we submitted our space request to public property. We looked at a space which basically can accommodate all of what we need as far as a Sheriff Academy. We're going through PCCD, which is the Sheriff's Academy board of people requesting that we have this academy here in this city. We're talking to them now. We got a big presentation to give them. We want public property to go with us to our location so we can map out that space. We want it as soon as we can, but you know, the wheels of justice move kind of slow. But we're trying to get it done either by the end of the year or the beginning of next year. And so we're having all them conversations. We had a conversation with the Philadelphia delegate from the state, basically to get a waiver for us to have the academy here. You have the other municipalities around the Commonwealth, like Montgomery, Bucks. All the people on this side will be happy to have a Philadelphia Academy here for their people to come to and go home at night and not have to go stay up at Penn State for 19 weeks, 5 days out of the week for 19 weeks. And so we're in those conversations, and so we just got to be able to move it along, I guess with your approval and the mayor's approval that we, public property, can say yes, and then we can start putting everything together.
Okay. And also, in terms of the recruitment and salary and compensation, do we provide bonuses for individuals who have an interest in becoming a sheriff?
We just, from this administration, and this basically has been the first time since I've been in office, since I've been screaming it since I walked in the door, they are providing a $10,000 bonus for recruits that are coming in right now. So that's what's going on.
When you say they, meaning your team is providing?
No, the city.
The city?
Yeah, we can't offer any bonus. The city has to agree in order to offer bonus for deputies to, for those who are recruits that are looking to make this a career.
Good.
So that bonus of $10,000 is now. This is the first time that we, talking to the HR administration under the new leadership, that we are now going to be announcing twice. We have an announcement now that ends May the 18th, and then we're going to have another announcement in June. And that's the first time, because prior to that, the HR only announced for deputy sheriffs once a year for 6 weeks, and that was it.
Okay. What's your strategies for recruitment to make sure we're addressing the issue of vacancies?
Well, we are out on all public social media. We are on TV. Matter of fact, I saw it on ESPN. Deputies are out around the city I thought this was off. We are out around the city recruiting. We are at every event. We are at your budget meetings. We hitting the ground running. So we're putting up on media. We're on radio. We're on TV. We just didn't get on the buses yet. I think that's about to happen. And if we can get some billboards up, we put them up and put them too. We out everywhere.
Okay. And you were at my job fair as well.
Yes.
And also want to acknowledge the work that y'all are doing going after those who have warrants in the process of us making us have a safer city. Let's go into do a deeper dive regarding the executive orders from Nina Wright Padilla, right? Give us an idea of how your team are addressing corrective actions regarding those two executive orders. And just for the record, just give members a brief overview of what those two orders were asking you to address, but most importantly, how are you addressing them?
I'll let the undersheriff reply to that.
Thank you for allowing us to have this question so that we can
Just for the
answer it
record, to
properly.
kind of clarify.
Absolutely. First of all, it should be noted that prior to, I'm sorry, Counsel.
State your name for the record, please.
Tariq Kareem El Shabazz, Esquire. I'm the undersheriff of Philadelphia, in the city of Philadelphia, city and county, I should say, of Philadelphia. We were working with the First Judicial District prior to any executive order coming out. What was noticed, and we had that conversation, was we were, like any other law enforcement agency, we were shorthanded. Based on that shorthandedness, there were some complaints, and we acknowledged that there were some complaints with regards to courtrooms being covered, with regards to individuals getting to courtrooms on time, to the end of it. We began to address those matters, but those matters were kind of married to the ability to recruit and to hire. We've already went through in the sheriff's presentation.
More of a manpower thing?
Manpower thing, just like every other law enforcement agency. But what the sheriff did was, prior to the order, began to design a plan. In order to do that, because it's a security plan, we had to go through first analyzing what the problems may have been, come up with a strategy that could work with the numbers that we had, and then try to test out that strategy to ensure that we cover every hole. Prior to being able to cover every hole, the court order came out. Once the court order came out, myself and other members of the sheriff's team began to meet. As we were meeting, we began to meet more often with the AGB board. During the course of that meeting, we began to address each and every issue. We got together with members of I should say all of the inspectors with respect to the courts to put together that strategy. Unfortunately, I'm not going to go into the details of the strategy, because if we go into the details of security, we'd have to change it. But what we noticed in reviewing it is that we needed to make supervisory changes as well, because making supervisory changes allowed us to get people in place that began to see shortfalls and come up with remedies. Once we began to do that, the inspectors dug in and came up with a plan. That plan was presented to the AGB board, who presented it to FJD, and we began working that. During the course of working through that, with no complaints at all. For example, people were getting to court earlier because they were getting picked up from the prison earlier. We began to work with the prisons, and together, as one Philly, we began to bring people down earlier. Juveniles are a little different because they're juveniles. They have a different feeding policy to the end of it. But we began to get people down earlier, buses down earlier, so we rectified getting people to court on time. We began to redeploy individuals and deputies in particular locations and at particular areas that gave us the ability to service the courtrooms and to make sure that each judge, that each deputy, that each citizen, and each individual that's accused would be safe. We began to do that as well. We began to come up with plans that allowed us to go around the areas of every installation and to explore what we can do to secure those areas, and we were able to do that prior to the second order. The second order didn't deal with any of those things because everyone was satisfied based on all of the meetings we continually had with what we were able to do. Our presence in the courthouses, our presence in every installations, our presence around the city and county or the center city in Philadelphia to the end of it. But there was a concern about recruitment. Mind you, the sheriff and myself, along with other individuals in the team, sat down with the AGB in last year, in 2023, talking about the shortage and coming up with different ideas to do it. With the redeployment, new supervisors, new chiefs, and beginning to put people in place, we were able to deal with that. But we discovered that in order to, I guess, totally alleviate the concerns that people had, we had to come up with strategies. One of the strategies that the sheriff came up with, she talked to you about, the Sheriff's Academy. The other strategy that they came up with, it was how could we publicize the hiring of sheriff deputies. The other thing is, this was the first time, as the sheriff indicated, that OHR began to actually work with us and open up their entire list to us. Originally, they didn't give us the entire list. But since this administration has come into place, they give us the entire list, and we're able to actually draw down on that list to the degree that we're getting more people coming up to our physical agility. We have more people that are actually in the pipeline going through the other processes to get them ready to come into court until they are able to go up to Penn State. The sheriff also installed some other tools that we can have a discussion about that, but I don't think that this is the present for it. Cool. So both executive orders, one I would submit to you has already been accomplished. The second one is being accomplished with the numbers that we're increasing now. The last thing I want to say, and I'm going to end it with this as to that question. We didn't have a budget for advertising. The sheriff, in order to expand the budget for advertising, she actually had to use service fees to pay for operations like advertisement. With that, and with that new strategy that came up with her team that deals with media, we've been able to put more up. We've been able to address all social media platforms, and that advertisement actually is playing out in terms of the number of people we have coming out to our physical agility and our orientations.
Are we partnering with, the mayor has a municipal government and college at Community College of Philadelphia to try to serve as a pipeline to help young people follow a career in city government? Has that ever been discussed, or maybe do a partnership? Because it sounds like more of a personnel thing more than anything else.
No.
Okay. I just asked that because I know that's like a major part of the administration's goal to try to get more people involved in various city agencies. And so when you talk about personnel, and I know the recruitment is a key component to make people want to be a part of the city jobs that we have to offer, particularly the sheriff's office, that might be another avenue just to think about from a partnership standpoint, and the administration being supportive of making sure that we address the personnel issues. I have one or two before I turn it over to my colleagues. And I did asked the same question yesterday regarding the registered wills office. So PICA, they say we shouldn't have the sheriff's office. We shouldn't have the registered wills office. For the record, I did reach out to PICA to try to get what their perspective was, and they were going off a report like in 2003.
Was it 2009 or 2000?
2009. So I said, just to be fair about the process, give us your response and give us the things. I have your report, so I have read your report in terms of things you have been working on in terms of the audit from the last city controller. But what's your direct response into that recommendation, the thing that your office have been doing that's up to date now? Because I didn't see any actual data specifically, but nevertheless, that was a recommendation, so give me your feedback.
Basically, we looked at
And have anyone called you directly or your team
They have not.
before it came out?
No. There was no. There
Want
was
to go on the record?
There was no conversation with the what are they called?
PICA.
In reference to the sheriff's office prior to them making a statement. And as we looked at what they was formed for, we kind of see that basically they are way out of their line recommending any elimination of any elected official in this city. And we talked to the senator who basically gave us a letter as to the fact that they're out of line. They did not talk to us. They're going through old stuff and they putting it on this office. And when you say you're talking about 40 years of what you may say what was wrong with the office, but never have a conversation of me only being there since 2020 as to what we are doing to improve the office, to bring the office in compliance. Not at all. We had an audit because when I came in, the one thing I know about business, if you're taking over somebody else's business, the first thing you want is an audit so you can find out what it is that you need to do.
And just for the record, you called for the audit, correct?
Because when I was coming in, certain checks was being sent out, and I asked the controller then to do an audit.
So you asked to have someone audit the
To do
office
an
that you
audit.
were representing.
To stop and see what was going out before I got into office. Basically inviting her to come in there so that she can do an audit so I can find out what is going on in the sheriff's office, because mind you, when I walked in there was no pamphlet. Nobody came to the sheriff's office and say, hey, this has been going on. This is the next project. This is the ones that need to be updated. This is how the office is supposed to run. This is how you're supposed to work with your city council people. This is how you're supposed to work. Matter of fact, the Home Rule Charter, I'm not an elected official. I didn't even know what the Home Rule Charter was. And so by getting an audit back in 2022 from the controller's office at that time, basically gave us a blueprint on what was deficient and what needed to be corrected. And one of the major things, me being in law enforcement in the Philadelphia Police Department in 27 years, when I walked into the armory, I thought it was a major disgrace. Because I've never seen people just was very haphazardly taking care of guns in that manner. And I believe we gave copies of what that was prior to what it is today. I mean, it was just a mess.
Just for the record, talk about what it is, what the changes you have made regarding the firearms and so forth, and what you're doing today.
What it was back then, it was a manual record-keeping book from the prehistorics. Trust me. And the computer system that was there was like your old TV with tubes in it. This is 2020. It had no means of communication between me and my staff at all. The guns was on the floor. Long guns was stuck in a corner. In a barrel. Long guns were stuck on a corner. There was no mechanism or any electronic mechanism to track anything in the armory at all. So what we did was monitorize. There's new technology, there's security systems, there's the beast that basically tags everything that comes in there, that puts it into a system. We know when it goes, we know when it comes out, who took it out, and for whatever reason. If you want the pictures, we'll send them to you, from what it was then to what it is today. We had a press conference on this, as what we did with the sheriff's office. For some reason, one certain media didn't put none of that in there, none of it. Thank you. And if you want to, term report, go to phillysheriff.com, and our term report shows us that the recommendations from the controller office, we've done some. There is some pending because technology costs money. And when we put it in our budget and say we need upgraded technology, is because that's what we need to do to help bring the office in compliance.
And last, because I know my members are ready to start, just give us an overview of your budget request and how that budget request will be broken down into how you're going to utilize the request for services.
Okay, that means we need to bring the CFO up here and the budget manager up here. Y'all step out.
Like in the perfect world, you get that 20 million, how's that money being spent?
Say that again?
No, I said in the perfect world, let's say if the 20 million was allotted, how would that be spent?
Okay, you got to introduce yourself. Tell me who you are.
Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Lee. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the Sheriff's Office. And that's a good example of a number that we've requested over several financial periods. That allocation goes to expansion, if I could use it as a backdrop, because of technology, personnel, contracts. For example, we need contracts just to do psychological evaluations for recruits. So we've been able to manage that partially, but if we have more than one provider, we can get them through the background check with regard to psychological evaluations a lot faster. The other part of that is upgrades to just how we deliver food to the inmates. Something as simple as that we've been trying to do, but it requires a RFP because the sheriff have a certain focus with regard to how she wants to increase the nutritional value for the inmates. We've presented all that information, for example, to finance, and we've given them detailed justifications. What has not happened is we never get a response to it with regard to that. So using 20 million, if we allocate it correctly, that helps with uniforms, special equipment. The inspectors have done a fantastic job with identifying their needs with regard to special equipment they need in their units. We get those requests, we review them with the sheriff, and we try to get them covered, but she's got to make a decision who gets what first because of budget constraints.
Okay, thank you very much. And now the chair recognizes Councilman Curtis Jones and Councilman Jamie Gauthier and Councilman Jim Harity.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I'm going to use a football analogy. For those of you who follow football, the #1 draft pick this year was Cam Ward.
Should have been Shador Sanders,
You know,
but
I'm
that's
getting
a
ready
different
to make my
conversation.
point. Shador Sanders was at least supposed to be in the top 5, wound up going all the way to the 6th round. One would question, was it for football reasons or other reasons? So life ain't fair. Having said that, that means Secure Sanders is going to just have to outperform on the football field everybody that came before him. So get used to that. With that, can we take a step back and tell the listening audience, what is your primary responsibilities as a sheriff? You do a whole lot, but what are your primary responsibilities?
Our primary responsibility is the security of the courts, the fiduciary for the sales of the land and property, those are court orders, and our safety for our deputy sheriffs as far as their safety, because when I came in, they had no equipment in order to keep them safe, especially when you have a civil arrest, and they had basically nothing to do what they needed to do out there. And so those are the things. Are you finished with our budget, people? Okay. Y'all go
Yes,
back
sir.
and bring them back.
So
The fiduciaries for land here dealing with the real estate sheriff's sale, the arm and security of the courts for the citizens of the city in reference to a safety to keep them safe, because we get, I think my deputy said the other day, 2-point-something million people that came through the courts in one
How
year.
many? Say that again.
Hines? 2.64 million people come through the courts in 1 year. One.
And you have to transport prisoners,
Prisoners, we transport prisoners,
keep courtrooms safe,
keep courtrooms safe,
keep judges safe,
keep judges safe, keep the people
witnesses
safe,
safe.
in and
Okay.
out of there.
There's 66 courtrooms across the street, isn't it? Mm-hmm. All right, and then 4 other buildings that you have to secure. How many slots do you have to fill that are still open?
Did you hear that? No, we got it.
We need to,
How many deputy positions are vacant?
we need to fill another 119.
Excuse me, sir, for the record,
Yeah,
you have to come and
yeah,
speak
you
into
got
the
And say who you are.
microphone.
When he's going to answer that, but when I came into office, we were budgeted for 420 deputy sheriffs. And I said, okay, let's start hiring. When I went to hire, they said, oh, you ain't got no money in your budget. I tried to figure that one out. If you're telling me I'm budgeted for this much, when I went to use it, it wasn't there. So, go ahead.
So I'm trying to do what Tariq would do in a courtroom, try to build my case.
Go ahead, Bill.
So
go ahead.
So what I'm saying to you, you have a probably, I'm gonna guess, at least a 30% vacancy rate that you have to fill in order to be able to meet those basic responsibilities. So right now, you're doing what you can with what you have to keep both the defendants, the accused safe, and the judges safe. And so to do that, you've had to do some interesting things that I know about, but I won't share, right? In order to keep things, at least the perception of safety out there. So some of these things that they have talked about, I know that they tried to do early on, because in full disclosure, we had a transition meeting where we talked about audits, where we talked about how to fill these vacancies. So I know this has been on the radar for a while. And for whatever reason, they have not, they've received the Secure Sanders treatment within budgeting. And we have to pay attention to that, because it is our victims that go to those courtrooms. It is many people from our communities that are the accused going to the court. And what we cannot have is fights on the elevators. In order to be a bold witness, you gotta feel safe when you come to testify. And so that is a primary function of them. I'm gonna switch real quick, Mr. President, to the training center. I know for a fact that PCCD is...
Member Jones, 1 second. Point of information,
Yes.
Majority Leader Richardson.
Yes, ma'am.
I humbly apologize for the interruption, Councilmember Jones. I just wanted to hear the answer to the question that you asked regarding the full staff complement, because I missed that, but I think if you could just tell us the full staff complement, as the sheriff stated, how many you're actually budgeted for, and then what the vacancy is.
We were actually budgeted. My name is Craig Martin. I am the budget officer for the sheriff's office. We were actually budgeted 400. We need 119 more, but you have to understand, we are budgeted for numbers and we never get what we're budgeted for. And what happens is that the city has a 5-year plan, and they try to force us into the 5-year plan. So as a consequence, we never get the money. We're playing catch up. We're about 186 people short. We're trying to push this thing from a budgeted 400 to 519, and it becomes very difficult because we can't get any budget that comes close to the budget for the prior budget period. So what we're doing is we're playing catch up. Each budgetary period, we never get the amount that we want, and then we have to come back and we have to look back. Now, what they do is they budget us based on the estimated budget of the year prior. And what happens is we never actually meet that estimated budget, so we're like 2 years behind.
I'm very clear on the process. Mr. President, can you just allow me just to do this, because I want to make sure we get the appropriate numbers on the record, and this is for you all, okay? What is your full staffing complement
Our full staff
for
complement.
deputies?
For deputies now, our full, let me, this is, because I just try to put that down. What we want,
No, meaning, the question is, what is your full staff complement? If you were fully 100% staff, able to
have
hire,
261
what is
No,
that
no, no.
number?
She's asking if we were fully staffed,
Yes,
we would need 610 deputies.
that's the answer, okay.
But I have
Six-
also a
is that the number
follow-up.
she wants?
And 610. And then, how many are you budgeted for?
Right now, we're budgeted, what did our budget say?
Right now, we only have 200, we're budgeted for 273.
No, that's what we have. What are we budgeted for on our budget? What are we budgeted for?
We budgeted for 391.
So just to be clear, because I want to do this, because this is, I think, helpful to what you are stating, but it's, I have to understand the numbers.
Right.
Full staff complement is 610, budgeted for 391. What is right now your vacancy rate?
That was my question. Vacancy.
What is the vacancy rate?
Right now, we're vacant at least, well, our vacancy is about 119 because the way we can, the number of full complement is not what we're asking for.
But don't you
in the
want to
budget.
fill
We're
vacancies
asking
before you get
for-
budgeted to?
Right,
What
that's,
is our
I'm
vacancy
just,
right
okay,
now?
thank you, I apologize, I just needed the a point of clarification.
Got you.
So that we understand what the true ask is.
Okay.
Relative to staffing needs, and I apologize, Councilmember Jones.
No,
I
not at
never
all.
heard the answer.
You got to the question I was asking.
Are you clear?
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Jones,
Thank you so much. And thank you for the clarification. It's on the record as we speak. So you're doing what you can with what you have, but not what you should have or should be budgeted for. That needs to be on this record so that, when you get criticisms, you understand, well, here's an answer. And all roads lead to Rome, but all of those roads have toll booths. And we got to be willing to pay those toll booths to get you operating at efficient levels. That's number two. Third thing is probation. Although we have, as I understand it, the and I got it from a reliable source, that the operations of the judges feel a little more protected based on your improvements. They do. I talked to them. Where are we at with probation? And I understand they're closed because they can't get a complement of sheriffs to feel safe in their particular operation.
I'm sorry. You saying probation is closed, that's not true. Go
What
ahead.
is it?
Okay. Again, Sheriff answered that in the blunt question. That's not true. Probation Department does have the security that they need because they have probation officers that are trained. That's the first thing. Secondly, what our warrant unit was doing in the probation department was not what the warrant unit is designed to do. Thirdly, we had conversations for months about probation, and we were moving our warrant unit, why we were moving our warrant unit, what we needed to move our warrant unit from, and I sat across from the executives in probation and said, how much time do you need to get in place the things that you need to get in place so that you can run your building?
So,
Our probation department, instead of dealing with that aspect, and since we're going to put it on the record, what they did was complain about the sheriff making a decision that benefited the whole.
so where
Probation
are
is open.
we? Yeah.
We
Where-
still have sheriffs down there, by the way. Those sheriffs are down there consistent with the order, sitting down in the lobby area. They are conducting it the way that they see fit because they feel a certain way. Not because they're not safe, they feel a certain way. We
So-
are working in conjunction with them and would have continued to work in conjunction with them, that if an arrest occurs or something occurs, we'll deal with that aspect. We had contingency plans in place. The what they desired of us was not the sheriff's job. The sheriff was allowing the leadership over there to assist in a capacity that was taking away from what the sheriff's actions needed to be in other areas based upon what we were doing to bring our plan, that is the security plan, up to snuff. The question.
All right, I got your response. It is on the record. I'd like to meet with you in the probation department because they have a kind of different perspective on how this is going. And I'm okay, as chair of public safety, we can get into it and find out how we can help, not how we can point, how we can help to make sure that this thing called justice happens smoothly for everybody. So we'll put a pin in that. And finally, it was thrusted upon your office that you have to do some of the serving of the warrants. How is that going?
You want to add into the additional? Our office now has the protection from abuse orders, which was not ours originally.
That's why I asked in
Is
the
an
beginning, what's
MOU
your
between
primary?
us and the Philadelphia Police Department in reference to the protection from abuse orders. Our warrant unit is serving that now. We now have the landlord-tenant office, which are the evictions that we basically are doing. And I wanted to bring Inspector Fallon up here so he can basically give you the outline and the numbers of that. You want to add to those things?
Yeah, I pretty much know.
Go ahead, tell me who you are.
Good afternoon, Chief Deputy Sean Thornton,
Good afternoon.
Chief Deputy of Court Operations. We went from before we took over the landlord-tenant court operation, we were doing maybe 5 evictions a day. That number increased because of that situation when we took over to 25 a day. So when we talk about numbers and what we're budgeted for and what we actually have, that's the reason, that's the biggest difference. We're taking on more functions within the sheriff's office under Sheriff Bilal since she got in. As she alluded to with the PFAs, we weren't doing that function, but that was something that we took on during the pandemic, and it has worked out beautifully with no incidents. So now we took over that whole function along with the landlord-tenant court evictions. So we continue to grow, and this is one of the reasons why we talk about budgeting and increase officers.
That's exactly why I asked the question. We putting all of this on you. All roads lead to Rome, but none of the toll booths are getting, you're not
Point of
getting
information,
compensated.
Member Jones.
Yes, sir.
And I'm just trying to get some clarity. So you're expanding the level of responsibilities, right? Which means you have more of a workload, right?
That's correct.
But if we aren't filling the vacancies for personnel, then you're working not at your full capacity because you continually have to recruit people to fill the personnel to help you do the work that's increasingly growing on your caseload, correct?
That's correct.
And so, and if the key is also we need additional funding for the budget, right? And just being fair, like we talk to every agency that comes here, what we're going to take in consideration, I can't speak for the administration, but I know how we work as a body. We're going to also look at the vacancies and calculation what you're actually requesting funding for, and would like to see the vacancy filled first, right? Because vacancies count also in a revenue scheme of things, right? Where individuals come in front of us, and no different than the administration as well. They have significant level of vacancies, right? And so we're looking at the budgeting process, we take that in consideration in terms of dollars and cents. And so that's just really along the lines of the questioning in terms of when you take in consideration your budget and your strategy for personnel, just knowing that it's going to go hand in hand. And so we can all be on the same page when we're having a conversation with the administration or what we inside the appropriations hearing, talking about how we're going to support different agencies in general. It just stuck out. That's why I just wanted to mention that. Chairman Jones, and then we're going to move on to Councilman Jamie Gaultier.
So all I'm saying to you is if we keep piling up more work for you to do, at some point we have to compensate with the budget. We can't just ask you to take on more and more responsibilities, high-risk warrant servers, eviction things, and not recognize that that has a budgetary impact. So there will be those that will observe, well, look what they're not doing. Well, look at the complement of staff they have. Look at what we've asked them to take on. And we have to put all of that into consideration as we make our secure Sanders analogies. Because you could tear it all up on the field. You're doing what you're supposed to do, but you're doing it with less than others would, than what your budget calls for. And that's what I'm saying.
And this is the analogy that I developed here. I said it's almost like somebody gave me a brand new car. I go to open the door of the car. There's no lights. There's no engine. There's no transmission. Instead of running away and say, y'all gave me the wrong car, we decided as a team to begin to build from the ground up so that we can put lights in, we can put an engine in, we're still working on the transmission, so that we can build what some people said 40 years ago as to build it up to be in compliance and operating. That's what we're dealing with. Because when we came in the office, there was no blueprint plan, nobody transitioned, absolutely nothing. It was almost they left and didn't leave a paper clip. And so we analyzed everything, got an audit, and as we bring the office into compliance with the city's ordinance and information and administrative stuff, that's what we're doing now. And in that interim, we get the PFAs, and then the LTOs go out of business, and we get that, and we are now in a building that basically can't even compensate all of us being there. And you're talking about our eviction people, because we like 20 cars, and where they going to park at? So we are in. Let me just say this. We are doing the best that we can with what we have, and we will continue to work to build it up and get the people in, because under this administration, just to be fair, has given us more than when we got from a previous administration.
Okay.
Basically for HR, by advertising twice a year instead of once, 6 weeks, and closing it down. When we are defining what our people positions is, being comparable to make sure. And to add to this, we just got approved for our youth engagement director, because in order to recruit, we want to get young people starting from the 9th grade to bring them up, thinking about being a deputy sheriff for future stuff.
Thank you. I just wanted on the record to show what you're lugging up that hill.
Yes.
And not to have us kind of wash over. Oh, well.
I appreciate it.
And I wanted our colleagues to know what you're up against. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome, Mr. Chair. Just one quick question. And I asked this question of a couple other agencies that operate the same same way, but I want to also just make sure you go on the record. And this is how we could be supportive in terms of collaboration. The custodial fund, right? Your own particular fund that you run with as an independent office, you have the right to. I know District Attorney Larry Krasner has one. He uses it to give out grants to neighborhood-based organizations to focus on the issues of violence prevention, which I think is great because I know his predecessors didn't do the same thing. Giving us an overview of how much you bring in through the custodial fund, right? I mean, because if we're working in partnerships and we're going to give additional funds to be supportive of you, can you share that just with us as a body? Since we're advocating inside various committees to make sure we're being supportive of the things that you want to accomplish.
We might have to get that information to you, because I don't think, did you bring that with you today? No, he did.
Okay. All right, let's make sure you provide it for the chair, just for our edifice. As we go about examining, and I think what Chairman Jones also pointed out, you're doing a whole lot more than just the traditional. So obviously that's taken in consideration. And then also we know for a fact, though, from the work that you do with the houses and so forth, and being able to bring in additional revenue on your own, that also play a role in the conversation as well, that we have to have amongst ourselves, especially the Chair of Finance and the Chair of Appropriations, Councilman Squilla, who isn't here at the moment. The Chair recognizes Councilman Jamie Gaultier, then Councilmember Jim Hardy, and then Councilman Nicholas O'Rourke.
Thank you, Council President. Good afternoon, Sheriff Bilal. Thank you for being here today, and thanks for all of the work that you and your team do on behalf of the City of Philadelphia. I have some questions about land acquisition, sheriff cells, and the land bank's priority bid process. I know that many of us in council are very pleased that the land bank will be participating in sheriff cells via its priority bid process very soon. I want to give a huge shout out to Councilmember Brooks for advancing that legislation. Can you update us on what additional coordination is needed between your team and the land bank in order to be ready for next month's sales, or is that work already done? And I also understand that many constituents are probably going directly to the sheriff's office trying to get a sale postponed for a property that they are maintaining as a garden or a side yard. And they may not know that there is an option to solicit support from the land bank in acquisition. Now that we have a priority bid process in place, is there a communications process in place where the sheriff can notify the land bank staff of constituent interest in a particular property before it gets sold off? Or is there a way the sheriff can do a one-time temporary postponement to give people time to reach out to the land bank and make their case for acquisition? And this is all about protecting community gardens and community spaces in our district and across the city. And I know that was a lot, so I can repeat those questions if needed.
We're going to let Tariq, the other shirt, sing, because he deals a lot with the real estate and basically negotiated that MOU between our office and the land bank.
Thank
Can
you, Sheriff.
just for,
Thank
I'm not
you.
even going to say a point of information, and I'll let this process continue to move forward. I do want to thank publicly the one and only Tariq L. Shabazz, for your work that you have been doing and working in partnership under the tutelage of Sheriff Rochelle Bilal and your legal mind, and just working to move the Sheriff's Office forward. I didn't get a chance to acknowledge you though, but to those who may or may not know, this is the Tariq L. Shabazz. Before, you know, a lot of these guys, what is it, Chaka, ain't that a guy name? Before Chaka and Johnson and all the other ones in the city of Philadelphia, it was Tariq L. Shabazz. And so I'm going to digress and let my members continue. But I just want to make sure just wanted to make sure I did the acknowledgement for the record, sir. Go ahead.
First of all, I appreciate your comments, and I'm blessed, tremendously blessed. On March 22nd, 2025, myself, along with the legal team, the assistant undersheriffs, Cheyenne Gales Poland and LaVonda Harris, worked along with the law department and the partners with the land bank, trying to come up with an MOU.
Yeah.
One of the stalls, or one of the roadblocks we ran into, is that we didn't have an MOU between the sheriff's office and the land bank. And it was important because there was new law that came down, new legislation that was passed through the city council so that we can be in compliance with that law. And as the fiduciary, we wanted to make sure that we covered all those, specifically people who are having their property or land taken and notification.
Absolutely.
We've gone through a 10-page memorandum of understanding, and it took some good work and working together to get it done. In that memorandum of understanding, there are notice requirements. The notice requirements is something that you're talking about that we stood strong on. The sheriff was vehemently locked in to notification going to the person who was going to have their property sold by priority bid. Priority bid, just for this record, is that bid is just going to be for the lien that is on that particular property. So if the lien is $2,500, then the priority bid is that $2,500, no money extra. The reason why that is important is that under real estate law and sheriff sales, the fiduciary has the responsibility to make sure that the sale occurs and that they get the most amount of money that we can get for that property being taken. That's important because the law recognizes that now they're taking something from someone, they're trying to make that person whole. Under normal circumstances, a $2,500 lien can generate $50,000 in an open general bid, but that wouldn't occur. That would mean that the debt would be satisfied for that $25,000 after we run a title check to make sure there are no other liens, no other money owed to the city. Whatever the excess proceeds would be would go to the person that lost their property. So that person may get $40,000. That doesn't happen in a priority bid. So it was important to make sure that we notify people. And the land bank agreed with that. And the law department agreed with that, and we worked out notification process. Some of the things that you mentioned in your question actually falls on the responsibility of the land bank, according to the statute.
If I could just interrupt quick, I think I'm
Yes,
asking
ma'am.
for a few specific things. So one, thank you for taking on this effort. I know it was a lot, especially with our new method of sheriff sales. But now that we have the MOU, are we ready to go for next month's sales with the land bank's priority bid? That's the first question. Secondly, I understand that you give notice. I understand that there are different responsibilities in this process that fall among you and the land bank. But ultimately, we're trying to help, Ms. Johnson. Ms. Johnson that's been tending a piece of land for years and years and years, and it's a benefit to the community. When Ms. Johnson gets that notice, I'm sure she's reaching out to the office. Do you have further ability to do a one-time postponement so that Ms. Johnson can contact the land bank to get help with the land bank using that priority bid to acquire that property? Or is there communication that can happen, even though it's not fully your responsibility, in the benefit of helping Ms. Johnson in the community? Is there communication that can happen between your agency and the land bank that could get that assistance for the resident? Because I'm sure it's very difficult for people to understand this process and all of the ways that we can intervene on their behalf.
Okay. First answer to your first question, it is ready to go based on our understanding, and our mechanisms are in place for that sale in May.
Okay.
that sale next month.
Thank you so much.
We're just waiting on the land bank letting us know, notifying the property. Secondly, with respect to having the ability to do a one-time postponement, we are without court order. What in fact can occur is they can contact, once it's a priority bid, and they receive notification, they can contact the land bank. The land bank then has the obligation with respect to letting us know that, and we can pull it from priority bid if in fact that person has a right to it and indicates that they wanted to go through a general bid or have the ability to pay for that. We have opened up a line of general communication because the sheriff has indicated that she's willing to use her team of detectives to try to locate people so that in fact we can notify those individuals. If in fact we receive and we have the ability to postpone it prior to, during, or even after a sale, if in fact something comes up to allow us to do that. Unfortunately, we can't do it without a court order.
Okay.
But the plaintiff on the writ, for example, the city has the ability to pull it. And working with the law department, they've indicated that they are going through the list, they will be communicating with us, and they won't have any problem with pulling that property. What I would submit is this: if we are notified, now remember we're a fiduciary, so we're supposed to be neutral, but if we are notified, we can in fact, as we always do when we post things on properties, but this is not us, this is the land bank, we can turn people through our constituent services to who to contact to have that done. I can, or one of the assistant undersheriffs, or someone from real estate can make the call to land bank and tell them, listen, this person has gotten in contact with us.
That's what I'm asking.
We can do that.
Okay.
Now, we can do that, but we're being careful because we're supposed to be neutral as to all parties. We didn't want to take on as if we are working against the land bank or for the land bank. However, this sheriff will not allow us to turn down someone who calls about a property to not contact someone, and we will contact that person. We've already had that conversation, so we actually have that kind of understanding. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it sounds like you're saying yes to my question in a very legal way, but I
Yes.
would love to talk about that after the hearing if
We
possible.
absolutely can.
See, what we put in place is a constituent services.
Okay.
And all the pamphlets is on our website. Because in constituent services function in the sheriff's office is that when people get posters and they get information, they can call us. And their job in constituent services is to look at all the avenues, state, local, and federal, on how to help them and connect them with the person that they need the most. Because most time people see that, they get scared, they go in, they say nothing. We put all of these on all our papers that go out with them, to let them know that there are programs to help them. And we say to council, if you find another program that we don't have in our booklet, you can send it over and we will update our booklet to make sure it's included, that they get all the information possible that can help families in the city.
Is a land bank priority bid in there?
If that's an issue.
I would say
but
that's a candidate for going in
I'm not
there.
gonna be the legal arm, you ain't getting me on that one.
Okay.
Land bank is basically that negotiation, that MOU is their notifications. They have to do that.
That's correct.
We're going to have a conversation
you.
And it was-
offline,
Thank you so much.
if
Yeah.
I can.
Because it was much, well,
It's a lot.
that time frame is good to allow individuals that notification, so go on the record in saying that. The chair recognizes Councilmember Jim Harity, then Councilmember Nicholas O'Rourke, then Councilmember Dr. Anthony Phillips.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Sheriff Bilal. Thank you for your service to the city. Quite frankly, and, you know, I apologize for some of the heat you take because unlike some of my colleagues, I have a unique perspective because I actually spent 4 years at the sheriff's office. And while it was one of my favorite and best jobs I've ever had, there were problems there that were going on for many, many years, long before you got there, like the armory problem, which you took the heat on, but I know was messed up before you got there. I remember when they did the audit too, afterwards they figured out that a lot of the guns they were saying were missing weren't actually missing. They were the old service revolvers that the deputies were able to purchase when the city switched from revolvers to semi-automatics. It was the same thing. The police got to buy theirs. My father has his. I actually have it now, his revolver. So I know the problems that you came in on. You know, they've been there for years, and you take a lot of heat for it, and you're very dignified in doing it. Knowing full well that a lot of these issues were there long before you got there. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that there were some people here on council that knew and know that you didn't do this to this office. As a matter of fact, when you were running, you ran on reforming the office and changing the office for the better, and I believe you're working towards that. And I'm really upset about the fact that prison guards make more than the deputies now. It was actually the opposite when I was there. That's how we recruited most of the sheriff's officers, because we actually didn't have to spend as much on training because they were already trained in prisoner transport and stuff like that. And the reason the prisoner guards wanted to transfer to the sheriffs was because they made more money. So I see now why we have this problem. How can we help to fill these vacancies? What can we do to help you have a fighting chance at filling this stuff? Because the fact of the matter is you're competing with every city department, including the police department, which does pay a little more. They don't pay enough either, but they do pay a little more than the deputies get paid. So how do we help?
First of all, thank you, Councilmember Harity, in reference to this, and we appreciate all the help that you could possibly get. As I said before, we're starting to get some movement from HR in reference to recruitment that has never happened before, at least not since I've been there. Pay, as far as the deputy sheriff is concerned. The other situation seems to be that our deputy sheriff's pension is different from everybody else's. It's like 1, 2, 3, pension here, pension there. They gotta work longer in reference to this. So there's a lot of things that go into bargaining with their union as far as to get them equal balance, because right now they are not. And so their pay equity in reference to them may help as far as recruitment. That's a way. Ensuring that our budget has an advertising budget, because, you know, it doesn't. And so we can't go up on buses and trains. The operations fund this time, we paid for the advertisement.
Just a point of information, help me out with clarity on it. So you don't set your own advertising budget, is that correct?
Not in our budget that comes from the city, no.
Okay, so the city allots you money to do advertisement.
I think that, what was it, 10,000?
Okay,
It was a 10,000 budget for advertising for recruitment.
and why is it set up that way where you just don't use your own budget for your own advertisement? If you say we're giving you 20 million, you want to spend $1 million on advertisement, why isn't that the case where the city has to allot you money for advertisement?
That's how the budget has been coming to us from before. If you give us money, say this way, we spend it on advertising, we can document we spend it on advertisement and where it went, because once you allot the money in our budget, we spend it specifically for what you allot it for.
Okay, thank you. Member
Hey,
Hardy?
Another follow-up question, because this is probably one of the other problems, is how are you doing on retention of officers? Because that's part of the problem with a lot of the other city agencies. Like the other week, they said they filled 79 jobs, HR, and 89 people retired. So they actually are 10 short right now, and they just got 79 people, but they're already short.
It's the same with us. This law enforcement agency is no different from any law enforcement agency across the country. Hiring was difficult because certain things came into play. It was a pandemic. George Floyd happened. Tamir Rice happened. All of these things came into play that made law enforcement not sexy. And so by our community engagement from all the law enforcement agencies, build that trust back up so people would look at it as another career. That's basically it right there. You have to be able to, our deputy sheriffs are going off to bigger paying jobs. That's what they're doing. They come in, we train them, we keep them for a couple of years. If something posts outside of that making more money, they're gone. That's the issue.
Yeah, and that's being already trained, I imagine it is. Like out in California, the sheriff is it. LAPD is number 2. You know, it's different. And, I get it. I thank you for your service, and please feel free to let me know how we can help with this plight on the advertising too. Maybe a couple more employment things in different neighborhoods. So I'd like to help out with that. That would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Member Hardy. And in this institution, Member Hardy, we can't talk about LAPD. They beat up Rodney King. So, Chair recognized. The sheriff's much better than that in Philly. I'm just having fun today, sir. I'm having fun today, Member Hardy. Member Nicholas O'Rourke, Councilman Dr. Phillips, and then Majority Leader Gilmore Richardson, then Dr. Nina Ahmad.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good afternoon, Sheriff.
Good afternoon.
Your testimony mentioned the live scan mobile fingerprinting and biometric recognition tool. I have a few concerns personally about how this would actually be implemented, including the potential for stop and frisk, style encounters, which I'm not a fan of, but given the state of the world today, I'd actually like to ask about data sharing.
Did you say mobile fingerprinting?
Yeah, live scan, mobile fingerprinting, and biometric recognition tools. So, it's really straightforward. Can you confirm for us, here and now, that ICE will not be given access to this system of mobile fingerprinting and biometric recognition?
We don't deal with ICE. We're going to let the legal person say that because we won't be on the hook.
I can confirm to you
That they don't.
that our policy does not include ICE using our facilities to make any determination with respect to that.
I thank you, Undersheriff. I appreciate it. Thank you.
That was a good question.
Thank you very much. I think it's important for a lot of folks in this current political climate. Also, so I understand, and I thank you for the opportunity for myself. I believe it was Member Gaudier and Leader Brooks that had a chance to tour the sheriff's offices sometime last year. I think it was still cold outside. And thank you for the opportunity to do that. And there, I think we had some conversation about this, but I understand, your desire to increase hiring. And while I understand that, a local academy, I no longer think is just a silver bullet. Both the police and the prisons have local academies, and staffing continues to be an issue according to both departments. Do you have data which will show that this issue and not other factors such as, to your point already earlier, salary disparities are a primary driver of staffing issues and should thus then lead to a large-scale capital investment like building an academy here?
As far as data, we're basically putting that together now. What we found out is when we advertise for people to put the application in to be deputy sheriffs, and we get to the orientation. And once those that put in that application, and we tell them that they got to go up to Penn State for 19 weeks, 5 days a week, and only come home on a Friday and got to get back up there by Sunday night, is when the drop-off happens. That's what we're seeing. Now, we could get 1,000 people to apply, and then we go through orientation. As soon as they find out that they have to go to Penn State and leave 5 days a week and stay up there, they don't show up for the physical agility, they disappear.
But also, Madam Sheriff, also acknowledge that, and it's not guaranteed after you do the orientation. Is it guaranteed after you do the orientation that you will become a sheriff?
No.
Yes, because I had someone who said, well, the decision for me to go there for 19 weeks away from my family, but it's not guaranteed that I'm going to get the job.
Well, ours is different because once you do the application, now we start that process. You got to pass the physical agility. You have to also pass the background check. You also have to pass the psychological and the physical. And so those are the other key elements that basically starts weaning people out. But the real drop-off starts when we do the orientation and say to them, once we hire, but you have to go to Penn State, and that drops off. But the ones that stay, those are the other things that they have to go through. Once they pass all of that, we hire them. They become deputy sheriffs because we train in-house firearms, CPR, and the directive that basically starts giving them the basic of what they're going to learn up at Penn State. They hire after that. Before we get a spot at Penn State in order for them to get certified. So we hire them after those things, they pass those. We hire them, we start training them in-house, which that's what I'm saying. An academy puts them a bigger group in-house to start training.
So if they do pass the training, then you do hire them?
That's correct. When you pass the initial part, your application, your background check, physical agility test, psychological exam, then we hire you. My panel recommends you being hired. We hire you and put you on payroll. Prior to sending you up to Penn State, you are a city employee.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, it sounds like you're still compiling the data. At the moment, what you're saying is it's more anecdotal, but it's a strong anecdote based off of what you're hearing from folks. We would love the data, actually, the actual numbers on what the drop-off is and things like that when you get that. But thank you for responding to the question.
Yes.
Looks like Mr. Tarek had a
But
question.
so that the record is clear, in answer to the president's question, they still have to become certified. And if they go up to Penn State and they don't pass the certifications, then the sheriff in her discretion can make some decisions with respect to them, but they have to be certified as well. So they are on payroll, so they are hired, but they have to be certified.
I'm probably taxing my time, but what would, if it's up to the sheriff's discretion to not certify them after that happens, what are
it's
some?
not, if they don't pass the certification, they have to do firearms training up there. What the sheriff does is train you enough that you should be able to go up to Penn State and pass. You get law courses, you get civil courses, and you have to be able to pass those exams as well as the physical agility, firearms to the end of it. If you don't pass one of those pods
In Penn State?
in Penn State, then you are sent back, and then the sheriff, based upon her evaluation of what you didn't pass, et cetera, can make a determination to ask them to take you back for that particular pod. So you are hired as a city employee, but you have to be certified in order to come back and work as a sheriff, a deputy sheriff.
Okay, I'm learning. Thank you for your responses.
Point of information, Councilman Maharity.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. You did say, though, in your thing, if we build a sheriff academy, that the surrounding counties on the eastern part, they would be very interested in going to our academy, which would in turn be some revenue too, also, correct? Because
that's
the
correct.
fire department, we send their people out and we have to pay for that, a lot of money.
Well, matter of fact, was it Montgomery County? Which one is it?
It's Montgomery.
Montgomery County, he's head of the Pennsylvania Sheriff's Association, basically sent us a letter, would be happy to be able to have his people come to the regional sheriff academy, because then they can come and go home at night. This is not just a hindrance for us, this is a hindrance from the surrounding counties that would love to have a regional sheriff academy here to be able to send their people here too.
Chair recognizes Councilmember O'Rourke.
Does that track, I mean, you probably wouldn't know, but does anyone know if that tracks for police and prisons? Because they have academies here. Do they also kind of get a catchment of other folks wanting to use the facilities and therefore drawing revenue as well? Does that track?
I believe that is the case.
Okay.
I'm not positive.
Okay.
Deborah wouldn't know.
Yeah, the idea was that if we build like a sheriff city,
They'll come,
They will come.
that there would be, it would be kind of a catchment for the eastern seaboard of folks.
I'll say this, and then I have to move on to the next individual. We do know, and this was in the hearing the other day, because our firefighters don't have, and I don't even want to say state of the art, I'm gonna just say they just have a training facility that's inadequate at the moment. They actually go to other counties for training, right? They don't even have a working tower to train their firefighters on, and so they go to Bucks County to utilize their facility. So the question is, do we think that if you built this local academy, will other surrounding counties come and utilize your local training facility? I would think they would, but I guess if the question is the data, that's something for us to take a look at and see. But I would think, and then also that would take in consideration what their facilities are like. But if we have a state-of-the-art facility, then I wouldn't take it off the table that people actually come here and utilize it, and also could be a source of revenue additionally as well. And so,
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Just in conclusion, if I could just say, for me, it's like, again, the issue is around hiring, and as I was understanding it, the lack of an academy locally, and I remember you mentioning this when we did the tour, was, as you understood, the deterrent for folks actually coming in. The issue that what I was trying to make sense of it was that the police and the prisons actually do have academies, and they still also have a major issue in terms of recruiting and hiring. And so I wanted to make sure that if we're putting a lot of weight on a capital investment, which would be a big deal, right, to build an academy here, are we sure that's what it is, or are we sure it's just not what we've already been talking about this whole time, which is you got deputies that get less paid than prison guards? So I just want to get clear about that. So if you, I heard you say that you were compiling the data now. When you get that, that'd be great. I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, I have to move on, but point well taken, and I think also in terms of investment of resources, I think he's also saying another way is if you didn't build it and you started to invest all that money into higher raises, right, would that being incentive to bring more people in as opposed to the training? But you're the sheriff, so we'll let you make those decisions, and members of council work with joint administration to figure out how best to proceed on your agenda. Dr. Anthony Phillips, Majority Richardson, then Dr. Nina Ahmad.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you, Sheriff, for working to make the Sheriff's Office stronger. I know it's difficult, and I know there's a lot of challenges, but we...
Could you speak into the microphone, sir, please?
I want to say thank you, Sheriff, for the work that you're doing to try to make the Sheriff's Office stronger. We see the challenges that you're going through, and thank you for trying to be innovative as well every day in your work. Just to be helpful, I just have one question. You mentioned the Sheriff's Academy. I just want to know, as a pipeline for hiring, I just want to know what supports can City Council provide in terms of legislative, financial, whatever supports it could be to help you make the proposal reality in FY26, other than funding, I guess. What type of, if you can just go into the details of what else we could do.
Thank you, Council Member. Appreciate that and insisting us with this idea. We have been looking at this from the day I walked into office in 2020 in reference to having a place where our deputy sheriffs can be trained here in this city. We're not saying build anything from the ground up. That's a lie. We have also talked to senators and our state delegations, so it won't be the city all on its own. We found a location that is local, that basically is cleared out, and for us to build a structure of what they get up at Penn State. So all we need to do is just set up the walls, the rooms, the simulating rooms, and all of that in this facility, which is local, which is ideal for what we're looking at right now. So it's basically like leasing a property that's already cleared out for us to begin to put those facilities together. That's what we're looking at. And that's part of public property. We already submitted the space requirement to the city, and we're looking for public property to go with us to the location and basically look at what our plans is to build out this academy there. So those are the things that we already started doing on our own, analyzing it, and the cost and analyzation has already been sent up. Well, we're sending it up to PCCD to basically show what that cost would be to them, or what it won't be to them, and what it will be here in the city. And we looked at other revenue and not just the city alone carrying this.
Thank you so much for trying to be innovative and thoughtful with the hiring process, and looking forward to further supporting you on that.
Thank you.
Wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Phillips, Majority Gilmore Richardson,
Thank you.
Dr. Nina Mott, and Ketsi Lozada.
Thank you, Council President. I'm going to make this quick. First, I wanted to thank our Madam Sheriff for all of your help and support. I know we've sent at least 3 or 4 constituent cases over the last couple of months, and you all are always really responsive and get right back to us and really help our constituents traverse, the process. So we're really appreciative of that. I know you had talked about earlier, I was taking notes about your full staffing complement and what you're budgeted for versus your vacancy rate. So I wanted to know, I don't have the exact organizational structure in front of me for your department, but As it relates to the processing time, because this is the constituent case that we get the most, is the processing time for issuance of deeds after a sheriff's sale. What is the average processing time? And then do you all have a full staff complement there? And if not, what do you need to get to a full complement?
I'll let Undersheriff talk about the deeds, but in that real estate department is a lot of civilian people. They mostly are not sworn when it comes down to real estate. As we turned over into a whole new system, our Tyler Tech system, basically where all the partners in the city can upload their information, is where the deeds and the distribution policy and working out the kinks in this new system became a situation. Now that system is up and running, and we've worked out the kinks on that, is according to civil process, it's a 90-day process in order to get that. The situation comes in is when people don't read what you actually need to complete your sale. And one of the things we found out is they don't understand that in order for you to buy property in this city, you have to have a certification that says you don't owe any taxes in this city.
Right.
And so you can go on and you can buy property, and then you're trying to settle, and you can't settle because you don't have that certification. But on the website, it tells you what you need. It tells you have to have a certificate of certification that you don't owe any taxes in the city. It tells you that. But they start to sell and don't have that. So now everything stops because now they got to go back and get that certification. That's basically so that they can complete the sale.
Okay.
And that becomes that issue. Then you have those that start the sale and then default. That means they don't, the next 2 days, they don't pay their 10% down, and then they have 15 days to complete the sale, and then they don't complete the sale. So that slows down all the processes of everything going on. Right now, we're finishing up. We got the kinks out of the system. And so we're going to work towards the civil process of that of 90 days if they don't run into any kinks as far as not having the proper paperwork to complete the sale.
So if they have everything that they need, they should be done in 90 days?
Yes, ma'am.
And then do you all have a full staffing complement there?
No.
And if not, what are the needs?
And see, those are the things you run into when you put a whole new system together. When you are just used to pressing buttons, that means you are not clear on that process manually. And so now we had to train everybody to clearly understand because we had to go manual while we upload the whole system. And you have to analyze when it comes down to distribution policies. And if you're incapable of catching or being able to analyze or add and subtract on those issues, it will slow the process down. So when we hire in the real estate department, it's specific skills that you got to have. The same way we determined that in our accounting department. When I came in, people were in the accounting department that did not have a bookkeeping experience. Not saying we're terminating them. We said, okay, let's train them in this area, but if you don't have bookkeeping experience, you're not going to grasp what an accountant or accounting does. And so in these areas, it's very specific when we have to hire people for these areas. And so that's what we're out doing now. We're hiring those with the specific skills to work in our real estate department and also work in our accounting department.
Okay, and then I guess the follow-up question would be, and I heard the bell, is just how many team members do you need specifically in the real estate unit to process and handle that work? Like what's
I didn't hear what you said clearly.
I'm sorry. How many team members do you need to be at a full staffing complement in that division of your department for real estate?
15.
15?
15 more.
Okay, and then what's the vacancy rate?
I think we what?
We got 8 now. We're working on a staff of 8 right now.
Okay, so a staff of 8 now. But if you were at a full complement, you're talking about 23. So the full complement is 23.
That's correct.
The vacancy rate is 15. The
That's
current
correct.
staffing component is 8.
That's correct.
Right? Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilmember Dr. Nina Ahmad, then Councilmember Ketty Lozada, and then wrapping up will be Councilman Rulandell.
Thank you, Council President. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We are looking forward to our meeting to collaborate on AAPI community recruitment for your office, and I'm very glad that you have reached out for us to do that. I have a question following up on what Councilmember Nick O'Rourke asked about ICE, and I'm glad to know that this live scan mobile biometric information will not be used. However, recently there was someone who was in the municipal court whose case was dismissed, felony charge was dismissed. However, a police officer in the courtroom informed court staff and sheriff's deputies that that man was wanted on another arrest warrant. And then the sheriff and court staffer instructed the individual to remain in the courtroom. And the public defender instructed her client to leave. The police officer then stepped in and escorted the man outside to awaiting federal authorities. And he remains in an immigration detention, federal detention center in Philadelphia. So I wanted to know what training your staff has in terms of cooperation or lack thereof with such situations. How clear is your mandate to your staff around these issues? And that warrant that was mentioned, was it checked whether it was a judicial warrant or a ICE detainer? So I would like to get to the bottom of this because this was a request brought to me by constituents.
Which one? Let me answer this. Let me just say this. I think that was cleared up earlier from the Defenders Association as to actually what happened in that situation. Our sheriff did not take anybody out and give anybody to ICE. We have a policy on that, but I'll let the undersheriff basically let you know what that policy is.
So just before that, it wasn't that they gave them to anybody. It was they told them to remain in the courtroom. That was, I just wanted to be clear about what the training is for our officials, because we have, and I remember from Kenny's time, we have separated from sharing information with ICE. So that's the clarity I wanted to know.
Okay.
Because I'm going to answer this specific question, but I would have to disagree with our sheriff taking any position or telling anyone to stay. In fact, it was the Defenders Association. But I'll say this. We have a policy that ICE, in our conversation with anyone, that they have to follow in order for it to happen. The first thing is there has to be a valid judicial warrant. That warrant has to be filed in the Court of Sessions file with the courtroom that the person's supposed to go to 48 hours in advance. That gives us an opportunity to verify whether that is a valid judicial warrant or ICE agent saying warrant for arrest. That's the first thing. Secondly, that warrant would have to be in the Court of Sessions file and shown to the judicial body, the judge. The judge would review it and let us know that under his or her review, it is a valid warrant. Once that occurs, then our deputy would take action with respect to that person for that valid warrant. We don't hand off individuals to ICE custody in courtrooms, in the hallway, in the corridor, in the elevator, in the building, or the surrounding areas. If that individual who has a valid judicial warrant for their arrest is not in custody, that individual will be taken into custody by our deputies, into the basement, and transferred to the CFCF, where they will be processed. ICE wants them, ICE goes to CFCF to get them. If that individual is in custody and we took that individual from either one of the county prisons that the individual is at, that individual is again taken back into custody with us. We will take that individual back to the institution that they came from, and ICE would have to go to that institution to give them. We don't have, other than that process, which I would submit is similar in when we constructed it to the process of PPD. All of the information that I just gave you, we've supplied to the judges of FJD, and that is our process to the letter.
So thank you for the clarity on that.
You wanted the training?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No. Our deputy sheriffs are trained as to what that process is and what that directive is as far as what are they supposed to do. They did this every roll call, because all of this is new and all of this is big. And so they get that at every roll call as to what that process is. That deputy, to my understanding, went to check on whether this was a valid warrant. And then that was it. After that, the person was gone, and the next person took the person to wherever they took them at.
So there was no conversation between your sheriff's deputy and the individual in question. Just to be clear on the record, that is what you're saying, correct?
Say that again?
That the deputy, your deputy sheriff did not talk to the individual in question and ask them to stay in the courtroom. That did not happen.
That is correct.
Okay, good.
Just to follow up, if you don't mind, just to follow up on that. When we have a deputy in a courtroom, if there is a warrant, I think the undersheriff actually talked about that, we actually need to have a physical copy of a warrant. We do not detain anyone in the gallery of the courtroom. First of all, it's unsafe. Let's just say that. So if we have documents, again, we talk about following court orders and enforcing court orders, we would need an actual court order, which is a warrant, then we can actually take action. Just to say, hey, sit in the courtroom, that is not something that we do. That is not protocol of the sheriff's office over at the Stout Center. So let's be clear on that part.
Yeah, I wanted to be clear because I'm reading from the newspaper.
Right.
So that's why I wanted to make sure it's abundantly clear on the record that you have a process and that process is followed and people are informed, and this was something else.
As we could say from that newspaper, it can't believe everything that they write. Let's move on from that one.
Well, I know, I just wanted a quick follow-up on a separate matter. First, to say, when you were running for office, you talked about being compassionate in when people were being removed from their homes or their homes were being possessed. So thank you. I see you're still continuing to do that, and that is critical. This is to Councilmember Gautier's point that she was making. I had an experience in a family court where I was a witness waiting to go into a case of custody for a child. And I watched another case happen where it's always a sad time. Somebody is losing custody and somebody is gaining custody, and the person losing obviously is distraught. And there was an incident that happened, and it got me thinking that we always know in these kinds of custody cases there's going to be heightened emotions. Is there any support for dealing with families as they get their decision handed to them to avoid this? Because in that instance, it escalated into that aggrieved party getting into an altercation with the lawyer, and then it became, it was going to be a felony case after that. And so this escalated unnecessarily because they were obviously upset. I'm just thinking procedurally, maybe this is First Judicial District's purview, but as a sheriff's office, because you deal with a lot of heightened emotions, whether it's an eviction or it's losing their property or being in courtrooms when difficult decisions are handed down. I just wondered if there was scope for you, or do you already do, some kind of support for families or people facing these times, which would avoid what I saw happen, and apparently it happens a lot in family court.
Introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Inspector Hans, Commander of Family Court. Good afternoon, Council President, Council members.
Good afternoon.
To answer that question, this sheriff has mandated that all our family court deputies be conflict resolution trained. So they are trained, and we do understand the heightened emotion that goes with it, and we do preach the protect and serve part of our mission. So under this sheriff, yes, we do allow a little more latitude in family court. But once it escalates, we have to meet the escalation. But we do try to de-escalate every problem, and we're trained in de-escalation for that reason.
All right, good to know. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amaya. Chair recognizes Councilman Ketsi Lozada, then Councilman Ru Landau. Okay, Ru, you. Okay, Councilmember Ketsi Lozada, we're wrapping up.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you guys for being with us today. I'm going to be quick. I've been meeting with different providers, and there's some questions that I'm just trying to get on the record for clarity. Can you please share with us if the Sheriff's Office uses the Protection from Abuse database to track services of enforcement of PFAs? I heard the sheriff mention earlier that you guys...
Our
that's
warrant
one of the
unit, and Nobles is the inspector over our warrant unit, and because we have the PFAs, Protection from Abuse Order, and the PFAS system, that's what you're talking about, that's why she's up here, because she deals with that. Kind of bring everybody that's in charge of what you're asking. Go ahead.
Yes, we deal with PFAS. What was the exact question? Did you?
I just wanted to confirm that you're actually, if you use it or if you don't. And if you don't, then I just was trying to figure out how do you track the PAFs that you actually deliver. And then Philadelphia's PAF service success rate is 13%. Acknowledging population differences, for the 4 counties around Philadelphia, those other counties have a 61% success rate and a 45% success rate. Can you share what actions you have taken to increase Philadelphia's PFA service success rate?
We have that, I think, listed in our term report as to exactly the amount of increase of success rate in reference to that. I think.
Can you speak to that?
Yeah.
And why is it that ours is much lower than the surrounding counties?
We probably can give you ours, but did we base it on what other counties around? I think that's one of the other articles. We can tell you what we've done. And we looked at other counties, but our success rate in it is a lot higher than what it was before.
Yeah, I don't have it with us.
So when you compare that work of the surrounding counties to that of Philadelphia, what is the difference? Do we have a higher number of PAFs? Do they have a higher number of PAFs? And is that where the discrepancy or the difference is? Why is there such a huge difference?
Well, because surrounding counties are a lot smaller than Philadelphia County. That's the difference in that. Their counties are a lot smaller, and they have less than whatever domestic situations may go on there. Plus, if their people are here or we have to go there to serve them. We sort of like collaborate together to make sure whatever PFAs in the state of Pennsylvania that we can send ours to there, they can send theirs to us. But we do use the PFAS system, and so we track it through there. But we do have that information in our term report, and I'll make sure you get the surrounding county numbers and what the difference. But what we saw is the surrounding counties are a lot smaller than what the city of Philadelphia is.
Okay. And does the sheriff convene or participate in collaborative PFA service and enforcement work groups that include representatives from the Philadelphia Courts, DA's Office, Philadelphia PD, and the 4 DV programs serving the city? Do you participate in those?
Yes.
In those work groups? And how have you guys started to work collaboratively? Like what are some of the initiatives that you do beyond just the PFA work? I'm sorry.
I think that's, Thornton, are you in that group with Molly in reference to PFAS and all that? Or you?
Yeah, I'm in a group with that, and just recently we presented to the sheriff domestic violence task force that's working through the warrant unit. We are always on line with them, also working with the firearms unit with the detectives.
So are you guys working on engagement, education, prevention? What are some of those things that you all
work on together? How do you all better serve victims that are in your respective spaces?
Basically, we get together with the police to make sure that we both aren't serving the same PFAs, therefore that we can widespread our resources faster in order to make sure that all the PFAs is being served. Also with the bringing the guns back, that we're working with the gun enforcement unit to collaborate with to get the guns off the street when they have PFAs.
So we're working with all the groups that are dealing with PFAs, relinquished guns, protection from abuse order. Our warrant are the leaders in that. And when she said we just put together what we call a protection from abuse unit within the warrant unit. We have the different groups within our warrant unit to make sure that every protection from abuse order that comes into us gets served timely, and to make sure that people are understood what their rights are in that area.
Right,
so that's
but
why we come together and we work with the Women Against Abuse. We have those monthly meetings, I think with Molly, that you may have. Our warrant unit participate in all these meetings. So we're trying to make sure that we work together on all these things.
But as part of this work group, what I'm trying to get is, you all are serving victims, right? So what is the priorities of this work group?
Let's bring it home.
What's the priority of the work group? That's what she's asking. When y'all meet, what are they talking about?
Making sure that everyone is being served. And if it's a gun that's related to the PFA, that we're collecting the weapons.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and I suggest you continue to have that follow-up conversation if you have any additional questions, Councilmember Lozada.
Yes.
Just want to thank you for your testimony today, Sheriff Bilal, for your team being here, and thank you very much. And make sure we all have all the documents as well regarding the budget and so forth, just for us to review as well and compare with the administration. With that being said, the chair recognizes Majority Leader Gilmore Richardson for a motion to recess.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
It has been moved and properly seconded. The public hearing and meeting on the bills and resolutions before the committee stand in recess until Wednesday, May the 7th, 2025 at 10 a.m. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it, and we stand in recess until Wednesday, May the 7th, 2025 at 10 a.m., at which time we will reconvene in room 400. Thank you, everyone, for being here today.